Thank you for being here. It's really wonderful to be able to have the community and the SYRCL members come together for our 4th annual State of the Yuba. We really think this is important to have an opportunity to bring the community together to talk about the work that you participate in as volunteers and that you support as donors and members. We have a lot of fun together with cleanups and film festivals and Wild for the Yuba, but we think, one day a year we're going to get together and kind of report out on the work and give you a chance to meet the staff and hear what they've been up to and how they've been working with all of you. And as Executive Director sitting here, I'm just so impressed by the team that we've put together. What do you guys think? Aren't they amazing? When Rachel talks, I feel like I'm on the lower Yuba planning a major multi-million-dollar project. When Jen talks, I can feel the passion that she brings to the volunteers in her, the way she inspires people and they inspire her. And just this whole community, the partners that we have, the volunteers we have, the youth that we're engaging, to have a night like this where we come together and really honor what this organization has done for 34 years, what we're doing right now, what we're planning for the future, and just to look around and recognize so many of you and be so grateful for your support in making this all happen. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Caleb Dardick, and it's my privilege. This is my 6th year as Executive Director of SYRCL. So thank you for your support, and thank you for everything that I want to pick up on a theme that I think many of us are talking about, and some of our speakers have already alluded to directly or indirectly, which is what a year this has been already, huh? It's only, I don't even know how long. First quarter. Yeah, first quarter. If those of you who were here last year remember that I started my talk, I don't know, why is it always John Regan who's talking during my talk? 1 year, just 1 year. I can't resist. Last year, I quoted Gary Snyder when he wrote, "We who live in terms of centuries rather than millions of years must hold the watershed and its communities together so our children might enjoy the clear water and fresh life of this landscape." And I think that's something we all hold dear here in this community. But like I said, in the last 5 months since November 8th, doesn't it seem like we are living in terms of days and weeks rather than years?
Hours.
Much less, hours. I mean, we're not even close to centuries. And this is especially poignant given this administration's attacks on clean air, clean water, and our hard-fought environmental protections. We're in a period of heightened conflict when it comes to so many issues, not least of which is protecting our environment, our watersheds, our planet. The silver lining is that thanks to you, the community united in this room tonight, that SYRCL is prepared to organize that local resistance. Washington may weaken the Clean Water Act and the EPA, but our citizen scientists will continue to monitor water quality and call out violators when we see them. Washington may try to throw out the Endangered Species Act, but we will continue to advocate for wild salmon and do good on-the-ground work, as Rachel just described. Washington may strip resources and try to privatize public land, but we will continue to support our federal partners at the BLM, at the Forest Service, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, because together we're going to restore our meadows, improve forest health, and rebuild our fisheries. Washington, they may claim climate change is a hoax, but we know better, and we will work with our local water agency and other partners to face the challenges ahead. Despite the administration's hostile, anti-environmental rhetoric, we know these issues aren't black and white. We know we must listen and learn from one another to find lasting solutions to complex problems so we can best manage our limited natural resources for future generations. That is why, although we are assertively challenging the Nevada Irrigation District's proposal to build Centennial Dam, we do so in the spirit of respect and understanding that we live and work here in this watershed together. Despite NID's apparent confidence that they are doing the right thing by aggressively pursuing this new dam on the Bear River, it is SYRCL's job to try to educate and engage our members and the larger community about what is at stake for the Yuba and the Bear. That's why we launched our Become a Dam Watchdog campaign last fall. And you never know when you start something if anyone's going to play with you. But to date, nearly 1,600 of you have become dam watchdogs. Thank you. Please stand up if you are able. You know who you are, all the dam watchdogs. Let's see what 1,600 look like. Together, all of us, all of you, beautiful standing there, all of you together, we're the Dam Watchdogs, and we're challenging NID's continued effort to build a massive new dam on the Bear River, a 275-foot tall wall that would flood the last 6 miles of publicly accessible, free-flowing river on the Bear. A dam that would displace dozens of families, destroy beloved swimming holes and Native American cultural sites. A dam that, if it failed to fill, could demand more water from the Yuba. Yep. Do you remember at last year's State of the Yuba when I said that, just circle around it, when I said that already more than half of the water in the upper, middle, and south Yuba River watersheds is being diverted to the Bear River? When I shared that, many of the people in this room audibly gasped. Remember that? Yeah. For me, and I think for many of us, that was an educational tipping point. That was when I think SYRCL members started asking even more questions and getting more involved. And it's not just local people who see the threat this dam poses. American Rivers just published its annual list of the country's most endangered rivers, and the Bear is number 2, bringing national attention to what's happening here. Thank you, Max. Thank you, American Rivers. One example of this renewed activist spirit that we're seeing and that Jen talked about earlier was when my high school journalism teacher, George Olive, who's here, George, there he is, raising his hand. George came to see me in February, and George said, "Caleb, I want to help take on the dam." George said, "I haven't been this politically energized since Nixon." He said, "I've even dusted off my old SDS t-shirt." Thank you, George, you're an inspiration. Because my teacher, George, he's not only a dam watchdog, he's also joined our team of NID watchdogs, regularly attending NID board meetings to hold them accountable. Let us know if you want to be an NID watchdog too, because it would be great to see the NID chambers regularly full of informed and attentive activists. That's the picture I wanted to show you. That was the other day. It filled the whole room there, and people were quite passionate. Let's hear it for the dam watchdogs. It's been great also, as the director, to see how energized the SYRCL staff has become. I want to tell you a quick story. Jen, who spoke earlier, I asked her, to organize things. She organized this event, which is terrific. Thank you, Jen, and your team. So I asked Jen, if she would organize a National Environmental Policy Act training session at the Nevada County Library on, and she sort of said yes and shuffled out the door. But not long after, she came back into my office and she shut the door. She put her hands on my desk and she said, we should be doing more than just the same old training sessions. Let's do something bigger. Let's educate more people to take on this dam. So I got out of her way. And on March 13th, she organized the Centennial Dam Activist Summit at the Nevada Theater with the generous support of Yuba, the Nevada Theater, and KVMR. More than 300 people, hang on, I'll give you a chance, she deserves it. More than 300 people attended and heard from a panel of experts about how the dam would negatively impact the Yuba and Bear Rivers. And we gave the audience concrete and immediate ways to take action. So now join me. Way to go, Jeff. And part of the reason that we filled the room that night is that our community is hungry for information about Centennial Dam. Information that NID has failed to provide. Too often, when Centennial is on the board's agenda, most of the seats are empty. Maybe those seats are empty because NID's meetings on the second and fourth Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. aren't very convenient for many people. Maybe they aren't there because they have a job that starts at 9 o'clock. Anybody here have a job that starts at 9 o'clock? Maybe they can't attend due to their health or disability. So to remedy this situation and increase the level of civic participation at NID, SYRCL, and the League of Women Voters, and the Federation of Neighborhood Associations, sent NID a letter last year. We respectfully requested NID to live stream and archive its public board meetings online so that the public could be educated and engaged. We were honored to have Director Nancy Weber champion this initiative. And I don't think she's here tonight, but a round of applause for Nancy. I guess we were a little naive because we thought NID would embrace this affordable, good government action that would help make their deliberations more transparent to interested citizens. Instead, Director Weber's motion failed to get even a courtesy second from her colleagues to move forward with live streaming. Yeah, it gets worse. Director John Drew defended his staunch opposition by saying he would not, listen to this, he said he would not facilitate a vicarious relationship with the public.
What the hell does that mean?
I wonder what that means. What I hope is that his colleagues understand what that means and will distance himself from that statement because after all, being an elected representative is supposed to be about having a relationship with the public. We used to call that being a public servant.
Yay.
If you agree, call NID, get on the phone, or send them an email. More than 120 have already written to demand transparency. And this URL gives you a form letter that you can customize. But beware, it turns out that the NID addresses are all gatekeeped. by their board secretary who reads them, prints them, or whatever, but delays them getting directly to our representatives. That's a situation that needs to change. I don't know. Government transparency is critical, right? But it appears that NID is uncomfortable and unaccustomed to public scrutiny. An example of this was when we learned that NID met with Representative Doug LaMalfa to request an act of Congress to transfer the BLM lands within the Centennial Dam site to NID. Now, we don't oppose all public land transfers. Many of them are necessary. We're even working on a few. But NID doesn't need to acquire these BLM lands to build the dam. We believe this unnecessary land grab is an end run around the long-standing agreements painfully negotiated over the past 7 years by people like Alan Eberhart, who we honor tonight. Painfully negotiated. Why? To protect fish and wildlife. Agreements that would go away if BLM was out of the picture. So there's another action for you to take. We need your help to call Congressman Doug LaMalfa to just say no to a BLM transfer to NID. So far, 70 people have written. Please let him know. Please let him hear from you, too. Again, we've made it easy for you. So what's next? Where are we now with Centennial? The project is under both state and federal environmental review. We expect the draft EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, which is required by the California Environmental Quality Act, to be released this summer or early fall. When it's released, we will call upon you, the community, once again, to attend public meetings, submit comments on the draft EIR. So please stay tuned. The federal environmental process started in February, and I want to thank the more than 500 people who attended the 2 early March scoping meetings. That massive turnout, I've been going to public meetings for way too long, like Alan, decades of meetings. And usually when you go to a scoping meeting, there's a few consultants and a few staff and maybe 2 or 3 gadflies, political folks, but to turn out 500 people to 2 scoping meetings, folks, that's unprecedented and deserves a round of applause. It's not just unprecedented because to get people to go to these meetings is for them to be engaged, but to show NID that the community is engaged and paying attention. Because while NID is the lead agency, or as we've learned from the couple eras back, the decider for the state environmental process, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers runs the federal process. And it's up to the Army Corps to grant NID a permit to construct a dam in navigable water. And the Corps is supposed to favor the least environmentally damaging alternative. So, seizing on this requirement, our coalition, the Foothills Water Network, and let me just say something about FWN, Foothill Water Network. Tracy Sheehan is in the back. Wave, Tracy. She has been our coordinator, incredibly dedicated, hardworking. She corrals up to 40 different people to give input and participate on a 30-page letter that I think is a roadmap to the future and a real statement of our values, our vision, and where we need to go. And I really applaud your work because it's not easy, so thank you, Tracy. Also, please be sure to stop at the table because we have 2 weekends of amazing activities on the Bear River. One weekend where there's an opportunity to meet Nisenan families and talk about the tribal issues that are at stake there, and another weekend that's all about activist training and engagement, and that information is on the table and also on the Dam Watchdog site under events. So it's great to be part of an effective and powerful broad coalition. So we turned in this great comment letter on April 10th, and I encourage you to read it. It's also online, and we emailed it out to you if you're Dam Watchdogs. And what that letter says, folks, like I said, it's a roadmap, and it details an extensive list of alternative actions and strategies, which, when bundled together, would eliminate the need for NID to build a major new dam on the Bear River. And what kills me is this: why isn't NID leading the effort to study alternatives to meet our region's future water needs without a new dam? Don't they know that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, guided by the best practices of water agencies across the nation, say that building a new dam should be the last option considered, not the first? What if we took some of the suggested alternatives in our letter to make a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation? And keep in mind, folks, these are very, very rough estimates that would need to be studied thoroughly, and I hope some of this will actually be studied by NID in their environmental process. Let's just hit a few and see how the numbers stack up. What if NID fixed its leaky pipes and canals? Experts say that could save 10% system-wide. What if NID raised the dam at Rollins Reservoir? What if NID removed the sediment behind Rollins, making space for 12,000 to 25,000 acre-feet of water? What if NID modernized its canals and eliminated ditch and spill? Dams lose tons of water to evaporation. Centennial might lose 5,000 acre-feet. We need to count that in too, right? Improving forest health and restoring meadows in the Bear watershed could create at least 2,000 acre-feet of clean water. Some say it could even be 10 times as much, or 20,000 acre-feet. What if NID incentivized farmers and landscapers to minimize the amount of water they waste? Farmers who have converted to drip irrigation save water and money and increase productivity as much as 17 to 22%, according to the Pacific Institute. What if NID adopted best practices around pricing and metering water? Experts say water needs to cost enough to cover cost and encourage efficiency. And what if NID's residential customers, like me, probably many of you, made conservation a way of life? If we reduced our average daily use, which is an astounding 246 gallons, by 35%, that would still be 160 gallons per day, almost 3 times what is considered necessary. So by my back-of-the-envelope calculations, an all-of-the-above approach could provide NID with 47,000 to 108,000 acre-feet of water without a new dam. And that doesn't even begin to take into account even more innovative practices, such as developing groundwater storage, retrofitting old buildings, building smart for our future by reusing gray water, installing low-flow toilets, and many other proven measures. There are literally dozens and dozens of other alternative conservation and efficiency strategies to consider to save water at our farms, our businesses, and our homes. But instead of focusing on repairing their aging infrastructure or finding innovative ways to save water, they launched this non-stop PR campaign to sell us Centennial Dam. They have spent over $7.5 million developing this plan to date, including hundreds of thousands of dollars on PR alone. But this PR blitz has only fostered greater uncertainty, even about the presumed need for the project at all. NID says they need Centennial Dam, quote, to provide drought and climate change mitigation, meet projected future water supply needs, and improve water supply reliability for NID's customers, end quote. Let's examine that piece by piece. Climate scientists have been predicting for many years that the future will be one of extremes, and now we are living it. Years of extreme drought, followed by extreme flooding events. What makes the Centennial Dam proposal most unique is that it may be the first time for a water agency has used climate change as an argument for a new dam in California. But climate models are showing more and more uncertainty. Professor Jay Lund, a water expert at UC Davis, talking recently about new reservoirs, said, if you can only fill them, if you can only fill them every 10 years, they make much less sense economically. Might Centennial be empty for years at a time? And if floods follow drought, what are the risks to downstream populations from Centennial Dam? Oroville Dam was built less than 50 years ago, and nearly 200,000 people fled for their lives in February. In 2005, SYRCL joined with the Sierra Club and Friends of the River to raise the red flag about the safety deficiencies of Oroville Dam's backup spillway. Turns out, we were right to be concerned then. Maybe we're right to be concerned this time too. When I saw that, I was like, that quote, you can just use it anywhere. It's a good for us to remember, and I think when you heard Rachel talk earlier, the river does what it needs to do. Dams were historically designed for stable, predictable weather patterns. Maybe dams aren't the best fit for this extreme, uncertain future we are facing. One of the lessons of Oroville may be the need for spending money on maintenance rather than new construction. In addition to mitigating climate change, the new dam is supposed to, quote, meet projected future water supply needs, end quote, rather than provide for current NID customers, residential customers, most of whom live at an elevation higher than the dam site and won't be served by it. This new water storage may instead facilitate more residential sprawl, including as many as 20,000 homes that are constructed in Lincoln within NID's service area. Building the dam may encourage more unsustainable, sprawling development and more traffic headed our way. There is also great uncertainty about how much the dam will cost and who will pay for it. When NID first announced Centennial in 2014, the price tag was $160 million. You can see it right down there in the bottom left there. For the year or so after that, their website said the cost would be $200 to $300 million. This year, the NID board president conceded the project is likely to cost close to $500 million, and another director said he wouldn't be surprised if the dam did end up costing over $1 billion, which is pretty close to the $1.2 billion that our experts had estimated. But even going from $160 to $500 million is a big increase in only 2 years. And if NID borrows money for the dam, the interest payments alone could add several hundred million dollars more over time. The board president has said the project must pencil out if it's to go forward. He's also said the project will not be put on the ratepayers or taxpayers. The facility will be built and paid for by the revenues generated by the project. But at the March 11th League of Women Voters talk, the general manager said, rates are our last reinforcing revenue stream for the project. He couldn't rule out going to the tax ratepayers as a last resort. And while the cost estimates keep climbing, we still haven't heard definitively from NID how they plan to pay for it. Will hydropower revenue pay for it? Well, there's no longer plans to put hydro on Centennial. The general manager suggested that NID is a big investor lined up to loan them the money. But do NID's ratepayers want to be severely indebted to a major real estate developer? If we're going to learn whether this dam pencils out or not, we'll need to know the real cost and who pays. Right? There's still too much uncertainty. So, starting with uncertainty about even the need for the dam. What is the real basis for their number of 110,000 acre-feet of water? Uncertainty about climate change predictions. How often will the dam even fill up? Uncertainty about the cost and who's going to pay for it. Are we in for $500 million or double that? I'll tell you what though, there's one thing that's not uncertain. One thing that's not uncertain is that this dam would continue the tragic pattern of literally erasing Native American history and culture. The Bear River serves as a territorial divide for 3 different Nisenan tribal entities who still use this cultural landscape for spiritual and ceremonial purposes. We understand that as many as 20 Native American village sites and 3 to 4 burial sites would be inundated. And we're honored that Shelley Cover, the Nisenan tribal spokesman, is here with us tonight. Thank you, Shelley. And yet, the general manager was quoted in the Union as saying, there aren't Native American burial grounds out there. So what can you do for the Bear River? Speak out. Ask questions. Challenge the need for this dam. Insist that alternatives be fully explored and debated. Why should you do this? Because NID wants you to think that Centennial is a done deal. The NID president has said, it's not a question of whether or not it's going to be built, to be honest with you. Because believe me, it will be built at some time. Well, we know that NID has been trying to build this dam since the 1920s, and it's still not a done deal, even though they're now using climate change as their best argument for it. During the question and answer period at the League of Women Voters talk the other night, an attendee asked, who ultimately makes the decision to build the dam? And the general manager smiled at the 3 directors present and said that it would be up to a majority of the 5-member NID board. Just 3 votes. The outcome will be shaped in part by our level of vigilance and engagement. So I invite you, again, if you aren't already, become a dam watchdog. Join the 1,600 who have already pledged to learn more and challenge this project. Become an NID watchdog like George and many others in the room tonight. Join our growing team of citizens regularly attending their board meetings. Help us raise funds. We need resources to run this marathon of a campaign, to keep the dam watchdogs informed and engaged, to turn activists out to public meetings, to file informed comments in this complex regulatory process. With your generous contributions to the Dam Watchdog campaign, we will have the funds to cover our expenses and maybe even enough to hire a dedicated grassroots community organizer. This is a really big project, and most likely, this is going to end up in court. And we have retained the best environmental law firm in California, but we need money to pay them. We hope we can count on some of you to give generously to our legal defense fund. This campaign to challenge Centennial is about much more than just stopping a dam. It's an invitation to reevaluate how we manage water in our community. It's an opportunity to reassert our values for conservation and efficiency rather than just more concrete in the river. Thank you.